Hi, this is Dr. Scott with Hearing Solution Centers. And so, what we're going to talk today about is the newest Starkey hearing aid. It's called the Starkey Edge. We're going to do a heavy review on this, and I'm going to show you how to set it up. I'm going to show you how the app works, show you why this thing works the way that it does. Let's give you good information with that, too. Okay, so this is the Starkey Edge for 24 and 25. Now, late in 25, they might come up with a newer hearing aid. Don't worry about it with that too. We're hearing solution experts. You can go to heartulsa.com to come see some of my staff members with that too. Okay, so let's click over here. All right. Now in the Apple Store, and I'm going to show you the Apple Store part, and then I'm going to show you the Google Play in a second for the Android one. So app, I'm going to tell you, number one, if you're wondering which hearing aid or which type of phone you should do with the hearing aids, the best ones are Apple. Sorry. Listen, and they're easier when someone is older to do this. Now, you might be younger and saying, well, I want to do it on my Google phone. That's fine. Just make sure the phone is within the last 2 or 3 years. If you have an older phone, don't expect this necessarily work. And if you're going to like some of the Walmart, store phones, they're not going to work. You have to have newer type of phones from more of the mainline ones. Okay, so don't complain to me that you got something else with that too. So when you're looking at this, number one, you're going to click on pair for the pairing process, settings, accessibilities, and hearing aids. So what happens? Settings, accessibilities, and you might need your charger out. Okay, so if you have a charger, you're going to probably pop it in there, and it's going to pull it out at different time frames with that too. So, but you can have them sitting out. I always kind of leave the hearing aids sitting on top of the phone itself. Okay, so accessibilities, and then it's going to go searching, searching, searching. Right? You're going to go in there and you're going to pair both of them until it looks like this, which is Scott's hearing aids connected. That was the genesis, but you get the idea, right? Same kind of thing. And I will tell you, every year they get better on this kind of stuff. Now, there was an issue with the iPhone 16 and iOS 18.00. And I mean, we had major, funky problems with that. That's been solved with the 18.1.2 or something or other. And so they're a lot better on this kind of way. And we've seen them like get so fast on that. It's really kind of fun, especially if I have a decent phone with that. Okay, in the Google store, what you're going to first do, I want you to look at this the second screen right here. You're going to go to connection, so it's a swipe down, Bluetooth, Bluetooth, make sure that's on, and then connect your hearing aids or pair out your hearing aids. You're going to go over to your Play Store and you're going to download My Starkey. Okay? So once you've done that and both of those things, then you're going to go into this system with it too. Now, I know it's not perfect order here, but basically this, I'm going to kind of go in a slightly different order. It's going to show on this side of the screen, experience and control of it. So get started. It's going to walk you through the screens. It's looking for the hearing aids. Now remember, hearing aids have to be paired to the phone effectively. Apple has their own internal pairing. The other, the Androids just pair by normal Bluetooth kind of thing. But then you have to set them up through here. And sometimes they'll ask you to set up an account. They are playing around with that, so you don't always have to do that, but it is something you have to do. And then when it comes over to the side screen over here, it says everything's set up, know your home screen, and then boom, you get to this middle screen with that too. Sorry, I can't get you the perfect order with that stuff too. Okay. And I'm going to show you more about this with a video here. This is kind of interesting, and I'm going to play through most of the video. This is it's interesting. Hearing aid manufacturers are really good with commercials. I can't show you the commercial because it violates YouTube with the music kind of thing, whatever. But there are really kind of cool things that happen with this. Now, unfortunately, when manufacturers talk about it, they're going to like go right over people's heads. But I'm going to give you, I'm going to break it down after we kind of see this shorter video.
Deep neural network. A simple way to understand that for our audience It's mimicking and copying the ways that a healthy human brain processes sensory perceptual information. In this case, talk about sound processing. The sound processing in traditional hearing aids used to be done by digital signal processor chips or DSP, small number of cores that run at relatively high speed. But we know brain processes information very differently. It's a dense network of interconnected neurons with massively parallel way of processing information. So as a result, brain is able to deal with subtle patterns within the signal, so it doesn't have to squish the signal and either amplify what it used to be.
Okay, so let me explain what squish the signal means. What he's saying is that, for instance, I'm going to pull this off screen for half a second. We'll bring that back up here. But what happens in the past is that when they would listen to sounds and they would be too overwhelming for the patient, right? So what they did is they squished the loud sounds, so make it more comfortable in the range. Now, it would be physically comfortable, but it would be super hard to understand. And that is what he's talking about there. That's why it's a little bit hard to like figure out. Achin's an engineer. He just thinks differently. They're always hard to like explain to different people. And that's why as an audiologist, we kind of talk about this.
Considered to be frequency signatures of patterns in speech and then suppressed in noise. You basically lose the granular details in sound. A well-developed deep neural network that's trained with a lot of data is able to preserve the subtle signatures such that you don't have to discard information at a very low level, and then you yet can result in enhanced speech and reduce noise. Couple that with the dynamic range that we have in our device. Why dynamic range? That means you have a window of loudness levels of sound that you can deal with, from extremely faint sound to very loud sound, and then use deep neural network to clarify speech. As a result, people are saying, I'm hearing more.
Okay, so what the flock is he saying? Well, let's get into that a little bit. I'm going to show you sort of the middle section of this here. So what this particular hearing aid did is they had the basis of what's called the Starkey Genesis that happened in 2023. And it was a breakthrough kind of way in sound. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, listen, I wear hearing aids, and I'm telling you, I liked it way better than any other hearing aid I'd ever had. Doesn't mean the other manufacturers are bad. They just have a different way of processing sounds. Okay. And so what they were doing is taking what they learned, and then they did thousands of hours of research, and then popped it onto this new chip that the Genesis couldn't do. That's very different. Normally what you do is you're creating a chip, you test it, and then put it out there. Now you might make some modifications to the chip over time, which are more like software enhancements of kind of things. But what they did is they took it and made massive changes inside of the software, inside of the thing, and then made that chip, basically, they called it something different, but basically it definitely increased over the Genesis. From a year before, it was 30% better in accuracy and 6 dB reduction of noise level. That means it is a double less in loudness of those things. So you could reduce the noise loudness of those things and be able to understand better with that too. Okay, this is kind of what Achim's telling you. One of the funniest things is that they put out there this 51 hours of battery life. Now, before I think it was like 44, if I remember right. So they improved this because they cleaned up how the circuit actually works. And my response to that kind of thing is, dude, I mean, I don't know of anyone who doesn't take the charger, and drop the hearing aids in. You do need to kind of like be a couple millimeters away, and then kind of let it into the section for its charger. So you'll want it to let it kind of suction it down in essence, but it's magnet with that too. And frankly, I just put it in there at night. So I don't know anyone would ever really go a day like that. But chargers that you get actually can be unplugged, and that charger can be taken on a trip. So that's kind of helpful when you look at that too. But what it does, what that really means is that you can stream this sucker in a longer period of time. So I'm a big Audible books, right? I'm listening to all kinds of Audible books. I just have a monthly thing and I'm popping through an audio book every single month. So sometimes, unfortunately, mine are sometimes are like 8 hours long book, and then some of them are like 26. So then I have to blaze a little bit more with that kind of stuff too. So I'm always listening to an audiobook. Now, most of the time, I'm listening through my CarPlay and my Hyundai, right? But other people will listen to that. You can listen to that, and I've done this in, in an office, for instance. I had to get like the tires and the oil change, right? At this place in Tulsa called Robertson Tires. So I'm in there and I'm like listening to that audiobook, right? Well, I might be doing something else on my iPad. I'm listening to the audiobook right through there, and it's a really kind of cool sound. Now, you also notice that the appropriate, it says appropriately classifies multi-talk or babble. So basically what that is all the other noises that you're really not focusing on versus the speaker here. So it's got a clearer signal with that too. Now, one of the things that happens now is lots of people struggle with this concept. It's waterproof up to a meter. Guys, don't freak out about that. Without a battery door, if you see this little section right here, that's where normal battery doors would happen. If you have any battery door, you are going to have lots and lots of troubles with moisture leaking in there. Now, these are the microphone spaces right here, kind of above the little button. So there's this one, actually, the larger size actually has what's called a telecoil. So if you have looping in your theaters and you want that, you can go with a larger size. The smaller size does not have the T-coil, okay? So, but the microphone, there are two microphones, so there's an inside and outside, so it's like right here and right on the other side of that. And they have a unique kind of microphone design they've been doing the last few years that really reduces a lot of the moisture issues. Trust me, it still can happen, okay? But it reduces it quite dramatically with that too. All right, let me flip over here. So it talks about future-proof oral cast connectivity. Listen, if you're sitting with your phones, Auracast is a new type of system of way of streaming out things through hearing aids. Instead of necessarily just the T-coil and the T-loops, when companies and theaters or whatever are starting to Auracast, you're going to be able to kind of lock into that. We might even see this. I'm going to tell you this one. This Auracast might be so cool that in conferences, let's say the Dallas Convention Center, make up any place you want to go, if they can get into an Auracast system, what you might have is that the microphone comes out, sets out an Auracast signal, and then you would be able to locate in that room. It might tell you in your phone, I'm in room 201 or the main theater, and you could pop in and see that. That's what we're talking about of new levels with this. Because in the past, what we've had to do is have a transmitter from that person that's up at the front of the stage to a receiver, right? And so you have to have like an extra little connector device. But if we get to the place on Auracasting, what places like the Dallas Convention Center or whatever you want to pick, you would see those things Auracasted. It would set up different frequency points for each one of the 40 rooms that they have, whatever that number of rooms. And so if you were at a bigger convention, the large room at, say, auditorium or whatever, auditorium 1, 2, 3, and then you might have rooms 1 through 40, right? Or whatever name that they come up with. So when you went into that room, you might come up with room A42, click on A42, and now you're getting a direct signal with that too. This is the kind of cool things that I think Starkey's trying to do with that. Now, I've heard people also complain out there in the world that they, kind of go, well, with my iPhone or with any kind of Bluetooth device, that's putting a Bluetooth in the ear. The low energy Bluetooth is dramatically less radiation that could come. Radiation comes much more here or in those big old nasty Bluetooth pieces, right? Because they're doing strong levels of Bluetooth. But one of the things that the hearing aid manufacturers are FDA compliant, and what they'll do is they have a low energy capability in there. So that's pretty cool. And so those are new level. And today that's not exactly where it's going to be, but it's going to be helpful for you down the road with that stuff too. Okay. So when we look at the app, and I'm bring this up here, you have a personal part. And let me kind of, without going through every little piece here, but I'm going to show you on this section. What I want you to focus on is the right, left. You can see the battery life right there. If you had a big old nasty X, like on that right side, what it would do is X out the one side. If you had that, and you're going, I woke up and like it's X'd out. What I always tell people is to click on your phone, the power button and arrow down, hold it down until it shuts it off. Wait for a second or two, okay, maybe probably 15 seconds or so, and then restart your phone. And again, you can do the same thing in Android as well, the same kind of shut off. And it's got a clear Bluetooth out with that stuff too, okay? So again, you can go over here and mute the hearing aids. So you click on mute there, or you could turn it down or up. It normally sets it to a different setting depending upon your audiologist making that adjustment with that too. Now, the programs will let you get through some of the base programs. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you, most people will tell me, how many programs can you have? You can have a lot. I mean, they normally preset like 3 programs, potentially 3 to 4. But I'm going to tell you the average, and I'm going to tell you as a person who wears them, okay? I've been 34 years as a veteran audiologist, probably seen about 20, 30 something thousand patients, right? And yet, even as a person who wears hearing aids, the statistics are that 85 or so percent only use the 2 programs. And so really, I'm going to show you the crowd program. Now, you might have a specialized program, which I do, okay? I use my specialized program. I call it Super Noise. And you can create that by going into that 3 dots and create that program and adjust the settings and do kind of crazy stuff. Now, I don't recommend that kind of stuff. What I would really do when you're in this is click over to the Edge mode. Now, if you have the lower end products, the Edge 12 or 16, all you're going to have is best sound. And it's going to change the color of the screen, and it says Edge. It's still in the personal mode, so it says Edge. Now, if you have the Edge 20 and 24, that's a little bit more expensive hearing aids. I always say hearing aids are $2,500, $5,000, $6,000, and $7,000 for a pair. Okay, so you're talking about from the lowest end all the way through the top end. On the 20 and 24, you will have best sound, enhanced speech, and reduced noise. So enhanced speech is what I will use if I'm in a relatively decent listening place, like a restaurant, but it's not like a killer restaurant where it's just knocking me in the teeth, right? So I want to boost up the speech understanding with that too. But if it's a super noisy restaurant, and there's a one I think of right now, like Texas Roadhouse, super noisy restaurant with all the peanuts in there. And when you hear the crunching peanuts and the people walking around, it's got hard surfaces everywhere. It's got a good steak and chicken and stuff like that. But you might go on that reduced noise with that one. Okay. So the second program that I normally like is I like the crowd with that too. What I love about what Starkey does and the other companies don't do is that the hearing aid talks to you. Now it's kind of cool because it will say crowd, personal, right? And you have that ability. It actually has 20, 30 different languages out there. I had a guy that said, my dad used to speak Spanish in the home and French, out there in the world or whatever. Well, I can't remember exact time. And so I did it with a French, I think it was French, a French sounding, male voice. And he was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And so it does that kind of stuff. Now it changes the color of the screen. I would love to see Starkey kind of pop that up there where you could really, adjust the screens to see it a little bit better. But again, that's something that will happen down the road. And so it'll change the color and it has some of the same capabilities, but especially in noisy situations, crowds a different listening situation. My best way of explaining that is that crowd is like having two different hearing aids. Good audiologists, good hearing aid dispensers can go in and really program that and be careful. There are lots of different features that good audiologists and good dispensers can actually go through. But if you let them just take what's called best fit things, that's not the best way of doing that. We have a lot of cool features and ways that we train our people, our staff, and we're adjusting those processes every single time new products come out. And so we want to like work those things so they're totally different sounding setups with that too. Now, there is a TV streaming mode that happens in there, and there is a way to get into it, and you'll click onto the TV streaming. You can go into a couple different ways. You can do just the TV streaming where you can turn up and down the microphone, or you can actually turn up and down the surrounding kind of sounds. Let me give you an example. So, for instance, you're turning up and down the TV, right? You can mute the TV and walk away, go get the laundry done, right? And come back to your football game kind of thing. But what happens, let's say in a football game, and let's say you do Super Bowl parties, right? And I had a whole bunch of Generation Z kids, and they're yammering like crazy. I can't really hear the game. So I would mute the surrounding people and focus in on the TV direction with that too. Now, so I will tell you that this is the Bluetooth piece. Your audiologist dispenser should pair that puppy before you ever take this home. And there's a button here. You should never turn that off, right? On the back of it is a power capability, and I believe that it's a USB-C, if I remember right, setting. So you can frankly use any USB-C, but they give you one. And then you want to use a digital optical to plug this into your TV. Plug it into the TV. Don't plug it into like a DVD or other kinds of things. If you go to the TV itself in digital optical, you're going to get all the modes. Whether you have all kinds of other hookups, you're going to be looking through that TV with that too. Now, you can change the bass and treble if you really want to be crazy on that too. But again, you're going to go through the audio portion with those cables. Now, you also have the iWatch app that they really have improved a lot of this. The one thing that it doesn't have is a widget. Now, a widget actually improves that you can put a little piece there. Other companies have that. I've been bugging them saying, guys, get this kind of thing. Now, this thing works for 90% of the TVs out there, but it has nothing to do with Starkey or any other companies. But I have this Android TV on my upstairs area, and that sucker will not hook up to this kind of thing. And it would hook up if I didn't have this big sound bar and a few other things. But the sound bar like totally screws it up, right? But most TVs are going to just do perfectly because I plopped it into other TVs that works fine. Okay. But this one has a type of chat GPT. So let me tell you how this works. When you have this up on the screen, now it has to be the higher end hearing aids, if I remember right. I think it's the 16, 20, and 24. Click on that button and basically hold that puppy down. And then you can say, like, let's see, we use example of Dallas, dinner in Dallas, right? Or, directions to XYZ. And so you can click that. It will talk to you through your hearing aids. So in a sense, that chat GPT type of thing is coming up through there, or search engine capabilities with that. Now, it also has a health tracker feature. It's on you're normally been working from the home screen, but the second one over is the health area. And so it's tracking steps, standing, getting up and standing, and exercise capabilities with that too. And you can have a weekly hearing report. Now, let's say you're the daughter and you really want to know mom is kind of moving around. It's good for mom to do that. You can actually tell it to send you a signal, send you a capability. So I'm going to show you more about that in a second. But or you could have, let's say you're the mom and your daughter's bugging the snot out of you. Did you exercise today? You could take that weekly report and send it to your daughter. Say, leave me alone. I'm doing fine. So you have that capability. And I will tell you, in the ear kind of devices versus an iWatch versus any other device, they are the most accurate out there. There's a lot of statistics about the accuracy in there. And I really like the capabilities of this that most of the other manufacturers haven't really done. So I think Starkey does a good job of that stuff too. One of my favorite features is this thing called the self-check. Now it's in the deeper into the device, and you can actually do this. Ask your audiologist about that kind of thing. But what you do is you want to lay it on the table flat, okay? So lay those suckers down just in this kind of orientation, right? And then you're going to run through, and once you get into the self-check feature, you're going to click set, go. Now don't yap in the middle of this. Stay real quiet for like 20 seconds, okay? And if it green check marks receiver microphone circuit, you're fine. If it yellow check marks those, you probably need to clean the speakers right here. You see that little section there? Maybe brush out that kind of, vigorously. I use toothbrushes, right? And I'll use alcohol wipes to wipe that stuff off. That's what I use all the time. Okay, just the little tiny alcohol wipes. But if they're red check marks, you probably need to go in and have them fix them up with that too. But hearing aids, they need 2 to 4 times a year of cleaning. Okay, some people are less. I'm more like the 4 because I get a lot of wax issues with that too. Now, the thing that I love about this and is that it's funnier in this bit because Starkey over the years, probably the last 10 years or whatever it is, they've had the self-check on, they took it off, they had the self-check on, and now they brought it back. And I'm like, dude, leave it alone because patients can now go home and do this self-check themselves. And this is very helpful for them. Like, how about your daughter and you have a daughter that's going to see mom in the assistive living place. And assistive living places are very classic for putting in bad hearing aids. So you walk in, you go, I don't know if mom hears me. You can set those things down and do the self-check in the app itself. So pull her phone up, boom, and do the self-check and find out if they're working right. Now, if it's yellow check mark, you can clean it yourself, right? Or maybe you need to get it fixed. But this will tell you a lot of information. Now, I would love to see assistive living places do this more effectively to verify that their people have, good working hearing aids with it too. Now, this also has a fall detection. I don't know if any of the other manufacturers doing this at this moment, but what will happen, the very first time I did this, I will tell you this, I'll pull this off screen for half a sec. But very first time I ever did this, I set it up and I was in Minnesota and doing the setup of it, right? And I've sent it out to my wife and she's like, what the flock? Did you fall? Like, and it was just sending out a test signal like that. I was like, yeah, I did. So chill out, guys. It does that. Now, if someone fell and they were able to get up or it sort of did a fake fall in essence, they can actually let it go and say, cancel, I'm okay, or fall alert. So what that does, it's not going to call 911. You cannot set it to say 911, but you can set it to say, like 2 or 3 different phone numbers of like you and your brother and, granddaughter or whatever. And so it'll send an alert. If it catches, it doesn't do it in 60 seconds, then it'll just send it anyway at 60 seconds. But that person can send it. And I'm gonna tell you, my father-in-law didn't have this hearing aid, and he passed away just earlier this year. There are times, man, I tell you what, we could have had that like really fast and known something was wrong with that too. It's a huge, huge issue because when people fall and break a hip, you can count the year within that year that that person passes away. It's a very difficult thing. So you really want to know that. And do you really want your family member, your dad, your mom, laying on the floor? Because that actually happens many times. People could be laying on the floor for hours and days. But if they have their hearing aid in, it'll do an alert for you and you can hop on over there and deal with your parent with that too. Oops, sorry. Let me go over the side screen here. So that gives you some of the background stuff that happens in this hearing aid. I think it's one of the most quality hearing aids we've come up with. It has the full range of capabilities. I really think that you guys ought to be thinking about that in a lot of ways. But I'm going to tell you that is one of our favorite hearing aids because of the versatility of this kind of thing. So we do a lot of reviews of this stuff. You can leave comments and ask us questions about that. We're in the Tulsa area, so you want to go to Hear Tulsa, just so you're looking at hearing solution centers. Thanks so much.